For today's sewing tutorial on Happiest Camper, we show you how to sew a round makeup case. This cute little round case is perfect for carrying your beauty essentials on your next trip. Start by measuring and cutting your fabric and fleece. Place your fleece cutouts in the center of your fabric pieces and use the iron to fuse them together. Place a pressing cloth over the pieces and pat with the iron for a few seconds. Lay the liner 4 3/4 by 4 3/4 inch piece under the fused top piece. Then use the ruler to mark 1/4 inch out from the fleece. After you have made dots all the way around, you can then connect them to make a circle. Carefully use the scissors to cut it into that circle. Now, with the fleece facing up, lay the liner piece on top with the print side facing up. Pin the two together, making sure you keep the edges lined up. Sew the two together, keeping the edge of the sewing foot lined with the edge of the fabric. You will need to sew in steps, spinning the circle as you go around. Fold the circle in half, then cut a small tip off of each end where the fold is. This will show us the center of the circle later. Then fold in half the other way and do the same thing. Just be sure not to cut the stitching and not to cut too big of a chunk. Now take the 2 3/8 by 2 inches top piece of fabric and fold it in half from the wider side to get a crease in the center. Then unfold it. Fold the edges in so they meet that center line. Then fold in half again so those folds are on top of each other. While holding the folds together, carefully slide it through your clip and fold so the raw edges meet. Lay one of the circle pieces with the top side facing up and lay the clasp on top with the raw edges lined up with the edge of the circle over one of the cuts you made. Sew it in place, keeping the edge of the foot lined with the edge of the fabric. Go back and forth a few times to make sure it is attached well. Fold both of the 10 3/4 by 1 5/8 inch pieces in half and cut the corner tip off to mark the center. Also, fold the zipper and mark with a dot right in the fold to see the center. Lay the liner fabric face up and lay the zipper unzipped on top of it. Line the edge of the zipper with the top edge of the fabric, making sure the center marks line up. Then lay the top fused piece on top face down so the fleece is on top. Pin all the layers together. Sew them together by keeping the foot lined with the edge of the fabric, about 1/4 inch seam. Then, fold the flaps over so both right sides are facing out and you don't see the raw edge. Sew again, right down the edge of the zipper, pretty much right over the stitching you just did. Repeat those steps to add the 10 3/4 by 2 3/8 inches to the bottom half of the zipper. From the right side, zipper end side, line the 3 3/4 by 3 1/4 inch with the edge of the fabric. You want to have the top fabric face down with fleece showing and the liner fabric face up under the zippered section. Stitch them together using a 1-inch seam. Then unfold the flap so that it is lined, matched to the fabric of its side. Using 1/4 seam, stitch right over the stitching you did to hold the flaps down. Using scissors, trim off any extra fabric, just make sure not to cut into your stitching. Fold the top fabric flap up. Then, fold the liner fabric over about 3/4 inch. Now, pin that top fabric fused piece to the end of the other end of the zipper. Make sure you have the raw edges lined up and pin them in place. Then, sew them together using that 1-inch seam again. Trim off any extra fabric from here too, again making sure not to cut the stitching. Now flip that folded liner fabric over the fused so that it covers the seam you just did. Pin in place. Turn the whole thing so that it is right side out. Then using 1/4 inch seam, sew down that pinned flap. On the raw edge ends, you need to pin them together so they stay lined up. Then sew them together using 1/4 inch seam. This is tricky and slow as you work your way around, removing pins as you go. Do both ends. Flatten the bag to find the centers again. Tip off a tiny corner to mark it. Then flatten it the other way to do the same thing. Grab the 2 liner fabrics, trim the ends so they are angled. You want each end to angle the other way. Turn the whole thing inside out. Slightly fold one end of those angles and pin it at the edge of your bag. Then line it up with the edge all the way around and pin in place. You want to have the 2 prints facing each other. Using a 1/4 inch seam, stitch it in place. When you get back to the starting point, we want the end to overlap by about 1 inch. If it is much longer than that, and it will be, trim it off at an angle. I just like to have a little extra when sewing because it is better than coming up short. Next, make little cuts all around both of the raw edges. Be sure not to cut your stitching. Get the round piece of fabric without the clasp. This will be attached to the bottom, the wider side of the bag. Line the center cuts with the center cuts in the bag, and then pin in place. Using 1/4 inch seam, sew all the way around, making sure to do a back stitch at the start and finish. Repeat the last step with the top clasp layer. Just make sure you have the clasp hanging on the inside. Now unfold that 14 inch by 1 5/8 inch layer. Fold it over the stitching the other way by about 1/4 inch, then fold it over again and pin in place to hide all the stitching. Using about 1/4 inch seam, sew all the way around to hold it down. Do the same thing on the other end. Then turn it right side out. Now you are done! Fill this cute little case with your beauty essentials or special items for your little ones. Great in a purse or diaper bag. Plus, these make a great gift for teens and adults. Want more project ideas and sewing tutorials? Be sure to visit us at happiestcamper.com for all your sewing needs. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get all our latest sewing tutorials. Comment below and tell us what you have been making lately. We love seeing what our viewers are creating.